I'm Olivia. Like she said, we're going to be talking about strength, flexibility, and posture with balance. A month before this, I did a recording of balance in general, and then next month I'll be coming in to show actual balance exercises to transition off the strength and flexibility ones. So first off, just to talk to you a little bit about how your muscles start to work when you are doing balance. If you think about something that hits you kind of slowly, almost like you're out in the breeze or you're on an uneven surface, that's when your muscles start to work from your ankles up to your hips, so you feel your ankles start to move first. If, let's say, you're in a busy grocery store or something, or you trip on a carpet, you can feel that your hips start to move first, and then it works down to your ankles. You can also take a step to catch your balance as well. So with strength and balance, after the age of 75, it's common to lose approximately 2.5 to 4% of your balance and your strength for your balance each year. So it's really important to keep up with that strength to make sure you can stay as healthy as possible. Limited strength in your ankles, hips, and trunk can lead to decreased balance and decreased stability. Especially what we call lateral balance. So that's moving side to side, or the ability to catch yourself from leaning side to side. And that comes a lot from the sides of your hips, which we'll go over in exercise-wise in a couple slides. You want to improve this strength to allow for your ability to adapt to the balance and decrease falls. So with your ankles, if you have limited what's called dorsiflexion, which is where you pick your foot up, that limited motion can lead to difficulties in walking, not only in your strength and relying on your hips to catch your balance rather than your ankles. Thanks, Holly. With your hips, if you have decreased extension, which is this motion, when you kick your leg backwards, that's your extension range of motion. When that is decreased, it can affect your walking and your standing, as to be able to stand upright, you need to be able to get to that neutral and pass. So next, to talk a little bit about posture and balance. So a lot of us tend to lean forward with our posture. It's just something that comes naturally now with technology too. But this can affect where your center of mass is in regards to the rest of the world around you. As we start to lean forward, we're closer to the ground. Because of this, we end up using our hips to try and catch our balance rather than starting with our ankles as we should. And this can cause increased sway, as well as impacts on your walking that can cause increased instability and possibly falls. That forward posture is a risk for falls and is something that you can correct with some flexibility and strength exercises. So these are just some pictures of the exercises. If you would like me to even email you like a personal exercise routine, or to come in for like a free 15-minute consultation to our office, I'm more than happy to do that. Because everybody's different with sitting, standing, and being on your back on the bed or on the ground, I gave a variety of exercises, so this way it can be tailored to you if you would like something specific. So the exercises on the left side of the screen, that is to work the inside of your thighs. So what you can do is take a pillow, either on your back or in a chair. You can squeeze that pillow together to work the inside of your thigh muscles. This is going to help with that side-to-side balance strength. The woman on the second part of the picture, as well as the man on the table, that's to work the backside of your hips. So that's going to work that hip extension strength we talked about that can help in standing posture as well as walking. The next picture is to work the opposite side of your hips from the first slide. So that works the outside of your hips, which also helps with that side-to-side stability and making sure you can catch your balance if you lose it one side or the other rather than forward and back. The last section on the right is what we call marching. That works the front of your hips, which is going to be the opposite of that extension in the second part of the slide there. So the next one is going to be coming down from the hips a little bit, working more towards the knees. The pictures on the left there show two different ways to do the same exercise. It's going to work your quad muscles on the front of your thighs. This helps create a nice upright posture without having your knees be bent and kind of bringing that posture more forward and close to the ground. So you can use a towel, a ball, a pillow, anything to kind of push into there and hold for about 3 seconds while you're doing it. The middle picture leads to the sit-to-stands on the right there, where you can hold on to a counter or a sink. I honestly prefer a sink because you can actually put your hands into it rather than slipping off the counter. But just squatting down like you're gonna go sit into a chair, on the toilet, on the bed, any kind of position like that, and then coming right back up is gonna work great for not only your calves, your quads, and your glutes, which is where all of your power comes from in your functional activities. On the side, it just shows you that you can practice your sit-to-stands, either going from sitting to standing with both of your hands on the chair or without your hands on the chair if you feel stable enough to do so. But becoming really good at your sit-to-stands can help with your balance, because once we stand up, the next thing we're gonna do is take a step. So if you have increased stability and confidence in your sit-to-stands, you're gonna take a really good first step rather than being unstable and causing that to transition into your walking. This next slide is more about flexibility. So the top row goes together and the bottom row goes together. So the top row is all about hamstring flexibility. Your hamstrings are on the back of your thighs all the way down to your knees. So you can either stand and put a foot up on a chair, a step, a couch, can even be like a textbook. It doesn't have to be that tall. You can sit and straighten the leg, or you can lie on your back and use a belt, a towel, a scarf, anything like that to create that straight leg stretch as well. The stretch on the bottom part of the slide is for the front of your hips to create that motion to allow you to stand up nice and tall and not have the forward bend at your hips. That can be done on the chair as shown on the left, in a half kneeling stance in the middle, or dropping that leg off the side of the table or the bed. If you do that, definitely bend the other one like he does, because it allows to decrease some low back pain when you're doing that. So to work down towards your ankles, which are going to be the first part of your balance when you start to kind of become unstable on certain surfaces, or if you lose your balance, the first row is coming up onto your toes. So you can either hold on to the back of a chair, a couch, the sink, the counter. You want to come up onto your toes, pause there, and then slowly come back down. If standing is a little unstable for you right now, you have other things that can make that limited. Sitting works just as fine. The one right next to that is coming up onto your toes, or coming up onto your heels with your toes up. So that's just the opposite motion. When you do that, you just want to make sure you don't swing your hips back too. You just want the ankles to come up. The last one is just to show you how you can stretch your calf muscles. Calf muscles can get really tight. I'm sure some of you have felt that before. It's definitely not a fun one. But you can stretch it out either by leaning up against a wall with that back foot being placed flat on the ground, or using a towel or a blanket to stretch it out in front of you. Just last slide about posture. The first two pictures with the X's and the check marks, just so the X, bad posture, check mark, good posture. Just to see that a lot of us sit with our heads forward and our shoulders rounded, but if we can sit upright, nice and tall, they give the exercise to people where if you're in your car, the rear view mirror, a lot of the time we'll change the rear view mirror to meet us rather than leaving the rear view mirror up to where you should be sitting properly. And that can give you good cues to sit upright, as well as using a wall and standing up next to the wall to show you what upright is, as well as the guy on the top right is pinching his shoulder blades together. This can strengthen your back muscles, as well as rolling your shoulders backwards as the man on the bottom right. Last thing, just a couple things to count with exercise. You may have soreness. That's not a bad thing. Soreness does not mean you're doing something wrong. Usually happens, especially if you worked a muscle to a point that it challenged you a good amount. But if it lasts more than that 72 hours kind of 3-day mark, then it was probably too much at that point and you just need to take a step back with that certain exercise. But it's very common to have it for a day or two after. Also, strength is recommended to be done about 3 times a week, so I think that's pretty manageable. You know, don't set a goal that you feel like you have to do it every day, but 3 times a week is pretty doable if you have certain days that work for you. And the 60% threshold is just making sure that you make it challenging enough that you work the muscles and it's not super easy, but also where you don't have that soreness past 3 days. And that's all.